Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here from the Knife Center, coming at you from my bunker because I'm here to show you two knives and give you a comparison between the brand new Spartan Blades Machai and the classic ESEE-6. Let's check them out. So when I hold these two blades up next to each other, you can see there's some things that are very similar and some things that are very different. I do think both of these blades have a similar overlap, or there at least is a significant amount of overlap in sort of the intended uses of these blades, but each one leans a little more in one direction than the other. Now the ESEE-6, of course, has long been proven to be a capable design in the field, whether in the hands of campers, survivalists, or even some military organizations out there. It's going to work real well for all kinds of outdoor needs, as well as search and rescue and that sort of thing. Whereas the Spartan, I think, leans a little bit more tactical than the ESEE. We've got a significant amount of recurve going on here, which adds a lot of sharpened edge. Even though these two blades are very similar in length, you're gonna get more sharpened edge with that Spartan thanks to that profile. And although I haven't had time to test this yet, we are going to be doing an outdoors review of this knife, so I'll be interested to see if my assumptions are correct. But I think this is going to be a little bit better in terms of light chopping than the ESEE. Again, thanks to that profile and the edge geometry. But let's get back to the similarities between the two knives first, and I'll go point by point through the blades and tell you what's similar, what's different. As I mentioned, both of the blades are about 6 inches long, or at least the sharpened edges are. Measured from the tip back to where the heel of the blade starts, or the heel of the edge starts, we get about 6 inches with the Machai, and just under 6 inches on that ESEE. Although, as I mentioned, you are going to get more sharpened edge thanks to that recurve profile. Now, as for the steel, the ESEE is fitted with good old American 1095 carbon steel. It's definitely a tough option for just about any task out there, and Rowan, who's actually the manufacturer of these ESEE knives, Rowan's heat treat on 1095 is very highly regarded in the community as being one of the best ones out there for this steel. Now the Spartan steel is very similar. It's also 1095, but it's actually technically slightly different. This is 1095 CV. And you may have heard that CV before in a lot of K-Bar's knives, and in fact, this particular Spartan is made by K-Bar. This is the first in a set of releases from Spartan Blades in their professional grade line of knives, and what those are is a collaboration with K-Bar. They're Spartan designs through and through, but they're made by K-Bar up in New York, so you get that awesome Spartan design qualities, or those awesome Spartan design qualities without as high a price tag. This comes in at just under $200 right now, although the ESEE is a bit cheaper. Those start around the $135 to $140 mark. But back to the steel, 1095 CV, although technically different, but they're going to perform very similarly. In fact, you'd probably have a very hard time telling the difference between the two if all things were equal in terms of the blade shapes and the edge geometry between the two. They're both really solid performers. 1095s, of course, are carbon steel, so they will rust if you don't take care of them. And because of that, both of these blades come with a coating. Now the ESEE's is a little bit rougher. It has a little bit of a texture to it, whereas the Spartan's coating has a smoother quality to it, so it's not going to create quite as much drag. However, the blade profile on that ESEE, or the grind I should say, with its full flat geometry, is going to reduce some drag there, whereas the Spartan doesn't have a full flat grind. We've got a stout saber grind here that is flat, and both of these knives start at about 3/16 of an inch thick, so those things are equal. So we can make the assumption that even though this has the slicker coating on the Spartan, it's not going to slice quite as efficiently thanks to its grind. However, because they've left more thickness there at the spine on that Spartan, it should be a little tougher in sort of flexing side-to-side motions, whether you're using it to split wood, as in batoning, or doing that little bit of light chopping. You're going to have a little bit of extra weight out there, in addition to that profile that might chop a little bit better, depending on what you're doing, of course. And really the differences in those blade shapes are going to make the biggest difference in use. Consequently though, you might find certain smaller tasks like little fine whittling or carving a little bit more difficult thanks to that recurve, and that's the trade-off you're going to get for this type of weight-forward design. It's also going to be a little bit more difficult to sharpen than the ESEE will be. Because you've got just a straight edge, it's going to be a lot easier to do, especially if you're using some improvised methods in the field. I'd give the edge and fine detail work to the ESEE overall. That's because of that straight edge and the fact that we have a full-size finger choil here in front of the finger guard. That means you can choke up in front, do fine work a little better, you'll have a little better fine control. Now the Spartan does have a choil, but it's a little bit on the smaller side. For fingers like mine that tend to be on the larger side, I can't really fit it there. I can't get a fingertip up there, so that's it's just a little bit of less space on this design, so your mileage will vary based on the size of your fingers. Now moving back to the handles, we've got micarta on both of these examples. The ESEE has a linen micarta handle with red liners, and it is flat, but it is a little bit fatter than the also flat Spartan handles. You might not get as full a grip with the Spartan as a result, both because of the thickness and the height of the handle, but it is going to carry a little bit flatter if you're worried about the amount of space on your duty belt or your gear. And there is a checkered pattern on the sides here that's going to give you a good amount of grip. Although if you do want something more ergonomic, again, the ESEE series is going to give you what you want. There are versions with contoured handles that are now available straight from the factory. One of the things that's nice about these handles, however, is they are removable in both cases. So if you were the modding type, they'd be a great platform for you to add your own material, shape your own handle scales. You could even probably thicken up that Spartan if you wanted to add some liners to it. Now, as for the sheaths that these knives come with, they're both excellent. I will say, however, I think the Spartan gives you a bit more for your money, but I'll start with what the ESEE sheath does. The ESEE's sheath is a synthetic affair, hard plastic. You can get it in a few different colors if you're not keen on the green one here, but it clicks in very similarly to Kydex, although the retention's probably not quite as intense as a really well-fitted Kydex sheath, but it's certainly going to do the job very nicely. Now, as far as how this carries on the belt, we've got one option included with the box, and that is ESEE's clip plate, which is essentially another hard plastic piece that comes with a metal clip, and it does have a bit of a J-hook here at the bottom so that you can get on and off your belt pretty easily, but it's not going to necessarily pull out very easily thanks to that hook. Now, this clip plate is going to work on either side of the sheath, so this is ambidextrous right out of the box. But if you want something more secure and something that's less likely to slip on or off, these holes will fit a large tech lock if you're so inclined to put that sort of device on there. And not only is that going to allow you to carry it vertically, but also you could carry it horizontally if you wish. Now, the reason I say that I give the edge to the Spartan in the sheath department is they give you more options straight out of the box. The first thing I'll do is I'll click the knife in, and there's actually a button release here on the side rather than just it being a friction fit. That way you can actually pull on this and it's not going to come out. Unlike the ESEE, if it were to get snagged on something, let's say you had a lanyard on it, it could potentially be pulled out of the sheath, but on this one that's much less of an issue. Then when you want to take the knife out, simply press your thumb here, push the button up, and the blade slides right out. It's got some jimping here on the back that's a little bit on the wider side, so it's not going to be too sharp, but still going to be effective. And that also provides the place where the tab from that button release actually interfaces with the blade. So I'll throw that back in there and show you the other options that this sheath has. Now, as you can see on the back, we don't have a clip per se, but you are going to be able to get this on and off your belt very easily, kind of similarly to that clip if you're so inclined. It's because we have two straps here that are secured by snaps at the bottom, and you can use both of those either as a big belt loop, but it's also going to work with MOLLE gear as well, because that is going to fit through standard MOLLE webbing. Also, instead of just a series of rivet holes around the edges of the sheath, we've got rivets as well as some slots, which is going to allow you to carry this not only vertically if you want, but you could move this so it's horizontal as well, although that would be holding it pretty far down. But as another option, in addition to being compatible with a large tech lock, this is also going to work with a small tech lock. So in addition to having more options right out of the box, you also have a greater support for aftermarket options with the Spartan sheath versus the ESEE. So that kind of sums up the biggest differences and similarities between these two designs. I think they're both going to work very well. They're certainly proven, or at least the ESEE is. The 1095 of theirs I've used on numerous blades, and it's always held up exceptionally well. I'm even more familiar with the 1095 CV that K-Bar uses because I've got a ton of Beckers that I've used and abused over the years. And in fact, I'm going to get a chance to use and abuse this Machai as well. We're going to be doing an outdoor review on this very soon. So even though I said this leans a little more tactically in terms of what I have the capability to test, I'm definitely more skewed to the outdoor stuff. So look for that to come in the future. And then we're probably going to be giving this blade away once we post that review as well. So honestly, at the end of this, the last question I've got for you guys is, which one of these knives do you prefer? Are you going to go with the cheaper and time-proven ESEE-6? or the new Spartan Machai, which may be more expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than any other Spartan fixed blades you've seen so far. Let us know down in the comments, and if you want to get your hands on either of these cool knives, we're going to leave links in the description that'll take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And make sure you're signed up for our Knife Rewards program while you're there, because if you're going to buy one of these knives, you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. I hope you're all staying safe, sane, and sanitary out there. See you next time.